Okay, folks, so far we know how to graph parabolas when we have the standard form and when we have the vertex form. So our standard form, let's just be reminded that we can know the x value of the vertex by plugging in x equals negative b over 2a, and then finding this number, plugging it back in, and getting the y. So that's how we can find our vertex there. But the vertex form is cool because it gives us a vertex already, hk, when it's in this form. So the question that we're going to ask ourselves is, how do we go from standard form to vertex form? Standard form to vertex form. So what's the difference really in standard form and vertex form? One of the biggest differences is that we have a binomial that's squared. See that binomial that's squared, the x minus h? So how can we turn this guy into one of these guys? Well, that brings up one of our old favorites, completing the square. Remember that? Completing the square? If we can complete the square, remember we can create a square trinomial. And if we can create a square trinomial, that means we can create a binomial squared. And we can do that. So the cool thing is remember, we have to take half of b and square it. So we have a b here. We have it at negative 16x. Positive 16x, excuse me. But we have this plus 71. And when we completed the square, we know that we can subtract 71 first. And now this is where it gets a little different from solving an equation with completing a square and writing a function by completing the square. Because this isn't going to be by itself, this negative 71 on this side. We have y minus 71. And that's really the one mistake that you might make. You have to remember y minus 71 is on this side. And what do we have left? We have x squared plus 16x. And now, look at that. Now we can complete the square. So we take half of b, which is 8, and we square it. Remember that? But remember, whatever you add to one side of the equation, you have to add to the other side of the equation. So once we do that, we now have y minus 71 plus 64, and 71 plus 64 is 7? Negative 7? Right? Yeah, negative 7. And that equals, well, how do we write this as a square? We write x plus 8, the quantity squared. And now we have this guy up here. So the only thing we have to do now is put it in this form. And how am I going to do that? I have to isolate y, just like y is isolated here. So I add 7 on both sides, and I get this beautiful y equals x plus 8, the quantity squared, plus 7. And now this is in vertex form. And if it's in vertex form, we can identify the vertex. So I want you to press pause, and I want you to identify the vertex and the line of symmetry of this quadratic function that's in vertex form. So press pause, and I'm going to write the vertex. And what's the vertex? Negative 8, positive 7. And the line of symmetry, remember, is an equation, and that line of symmetry is x equals negative 8. So I'm going to do a second one that looks a little different on the next video. If you're having a tough time with this, go back and try to start from up here. And remember, the key is completing the square to create the squared trinomial.